Hi there. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Elizabeth Dinh. May is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and KOIN 6 is proud to celebrate the rich history of Asian Americans right here in our area. And we start with how, for several decades, Portland had a thriving Japantown. As we know from a painful part of history, Japanese Americans were forced into internment camps, and that neighborhood was nearly erased. Now, a new project will show us the full history.
It's everybody's history. It's all of our history. And so it's part of Portland's history. And we want it to be in the forefront, into everybody's, awareness.
Reflecting on the past, Chi Sao Hata, with the Living Arts program at the Japanese American Museum of Oregon, is also looking forward. There's a lot to see and learn here, and she wants you to know even more.
It's about place and having a place and losing a place and having feeling like you're being erased. And so it's time that we stand up and lift up those stories. We've had to fight for some of the buildings.
Buildings that made up what was once Portland's vibrant Japantown.
There used to be 36 Nihon Machis, or Japantowns, along the West Coast prior to World War II. And then with the issuance of Executive Order 9066, our communities were erased and encouraged not to return.
By telling stories within those structures, the museum is collaborating with the Architectural Heritage Center. Stephanie Whitlock is executive director of the Portland nonprofit, which has more than 100 programs each year, including its popular walking tours. Eventually, there will be one about Portland's Japantown.
One of the things we try to show people, and that this project is trying to show people, is that a lot of buildings in Portland and everywhere have such a deep cultural significance. Maybe not special architectural significance, but everyday stores, barber shops, groceries. Those are important to Portland's urban fabric because of the cultural history within them.
The two groups will also create a virtual tour that's an interactive digital storytelling map showing how the Japanese community was also in other parts of Portland.
In fact, the Yamaguchi Hotel, which was has a rich association with Japanese history, is slated for demolition. So that's kind of the beauty of the virtual tour too, is we can capture the buildings that have been lost.
We want to remember, but not necessarily bring back everything the way it was, because that's not possible. But what was in our communities, how people lived in the communities.
The collaboration comes with help from a $25,000 grant from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. The two organizations will be able to teach others about what Japanese Americans in Portland went through. Stories that are powerful, positive, even painful.
They didn't have freedom. They were behind guard towers or in prisons. The concentration camps were prisons. And just knowing the resilience and the fortitude and we call it gaman, the ability to endure in the face of a lot of pressure that would buckle a lot of people is really the inspiration that we owe it.
The virtual and walking tour should be ready by next year. They will also highlight the contributions of Japanese American farmers, as it is believed they originally grew 60% of Oregon's fruits and vegetables. So think about how starting over, that is never easy. For immigrants and refugees, there can be language and cultural challenges. So think about how much harder it is for kids and teens. But as Elise Haas shows us, we have people right here in our community who work to bridge those kinds of gaps.
The Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization in Portland, or IRCO, says they're connecting with kids with safe spaces and good role models.
You remember doing this back in the island?
Yeah.
Mele Kavapalu is also a mentor, serving as a Pacific Islander outreach worker for IRCO.
Just being a presence in the room, talking about stories back at home, the food that we eat, the community that we had back at home.
By visiting the schools in Portland, she's built relationships with students like Meletai Talanoa.
I go to Franklin High School, and I moved to the state in 2015. I was born and raised in Tonga, in a small island called Hawaii.
Coming here, the culture shock was tough, she says. But having someone to relate to makes all the difference.
I look up to her as a teacher and she's my mentor for school. And because School has been like a really hard time for like assignment and stuff, but she's there like to help you through it.
Being bilingual, Mele also translates to parents what's going on with their kids' schooling.
The life in the islands is different. It's a new world out over here, and so we just try to like be that support to these families to navigate here in America.
By helping their native people, the mentors say, they're helping the greater Portland area too. In Portland, Elise Haas, KOIN 6 News.
These days, more people are having frank conversations about the pressure to be perfect. And Jenny Hansen shows us how local students created Project Lotus as a way to help fight mental health stigmas, especially in the Asian American community.
Over 25% of all Asian Americans experience mental distress in their daily lives.
Mental health is a topic that can be uncomfortable for some, and in the Asian American community, Erin Lee says it's often not talked about at all, especially with first-generation immigrants.
There definitely is, a strong emphasis on being strong-willed and then also, not having very many faults or showing them to others. And I think that so when a lot of people sort of see mental health as a weakness.
Aaron is a senior at Sunset High School and one of the co-founders of Project Lotus. He got the idea after talking with friends about academic expectations and the stress that comes with that.
There was a lot of academic pressure, and then we sort of saw like us and a lot of our peers facing a lot of academic stress. Some definitely struggled with their mental health.
Project Lotus aims to destigmatize mental health by tackling the model minority stereotype that Asian Americans are supposed to be math whizzes or successful STEM or medical workers. And they are doing that through panels they host, most of them virtual, community blogs and podcasts talking about different mental health care topics. And it's not just for the kids, but also for the parents.
Helping Asian American parents support, if their kids decide to come out, supporting them mentally too. I think we also have some general mental health education. So that's really more focused on the parent side.
Statistics show shame and stigma in Asian American communities lead to them being 3 times less likely to seek help. Like the name of their nonprofit, they want to help students beat the stats.
One of the biggest things for us was a lotus that sort of blooms out of the murkiest waters. So we sort of thought of the murkiest waters as, the sort of stigmatization of mental health within our communities, different stereotypes. But now it's really time to blossom into a lotus and really, achieve our full potential.
Jenny Hansen, KOIN 6 News.
Time to blossom, he says. Know that you can learn much more about all of the stories you're seeing right here today. We have that over at KOIN.com. Food is one of the easiest ways to share our culture with others. Coming up, I sit down with my colleague Kelly Bayern. We connect over a lunch as she opens up about her Chinese heritage. And later, Bollywood dancing, keeping the cultural connection alive for this South Asian DJ. Keep it right here. Welcome back. A colorful new art exhibit is highlighting the history of the Jade District. Some who have settled there were forced out of other neighborhoods because of gentrification. So the artists behind this Portland exhibit hope it'll help keep this neighborhood's diversity intact. Just off Southeast 82nd Avenue, near Division Street, is the bright apartment building, the Orchards of 82nd in Portland's Jade District. The building itself, made up of affordable homes, addresses gentrification and displacement in this very area. And inside is a colorful art exhibit.
So it's a map of 82nd. I put a heart to kind of represent that it's like a part of the community. It's like a beating part of it. It's the most diverse area in Portland.
Artist Jose Camara Lavadores created this piece.
I also had it kind of have a dripping, melting effect to kind of symbolize that it's not perfect.
Jose is one of several artists who collaborated on the exhibit through APANO. That's the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, which is in the same building. Roshni Thakur hopes it'll show people how gentrification can hurt neighborhoods like this one.
And so we wanted to create spaces with community members to just start about like education around history and see, after knowing people's history, like what else can we do? What else can what changes can we make so that these histories and stories aren't lost?
The exhibit also pushes to keep the culture of this community intact.
You'll notice a lot of East Asian businesses, grocery stores, residents pretty much on 82nd Avenue. And then also this area of Portland is the most diverse area in Portland.
Each poster tells the story of the people who lived there and then the reason for their displacement or the reason for why these people find themselves in East Portland.
Artist Grace Kwan sees this as a way to take in art and an important lesson at the same time.
It's not a question, but it's more like a call to action. So place the dot here if you want to join us in stopping gentrification.
We all kind of collaboratively came up with a definition of gentrification, and we know that the city of Portland recently got jurisdiction of 82nd, and we are a little concerned that some changes might happen that might exclude certain communities.
Portland City Council says control of the avenue will soon be transferred from the state to the Portland Bureau of Transportation, specifically from Northeast Killingsworth to Southeast Clatsop. The city says it'll use $185 million in funding to improve this stretch of road, with lots of plans including adding street lighting, updating signs and roadway striping, and repaving the road. PBOT will officially take over control of 82nd on June 1st. Changes will come to the street, and these artists hope more people will make sure they're changes that will benefit and preserve this community's history and culture.
And I think it's really important to make a note of the people that are present and not exactly try to push them away, but try to help them to improve themselves.
At the end of the exhibit, there's also a Don't Be a Gentrifier neighborhood welcome kit. Since this is in an apartment building, you do need to make an appointment to be able to see it. And at KOIN.com, you'll find the info on how you can do that. Ever since the pandemic started, more Asians have been harassed because of their race. You may have even seen the hashtag #StopAsianHate highlighting this troubling trend. Well, recently, the Oregon Values and Belief Center released several statewide surveys focused on Asian American Pacific Islander communities. Nearly half of the people surveyed had a racial slur used against them or a family member. That's more than 74,000 incidents. About 1 in 3 say they don't go out in public as often over fears of violence. And 84% say they choose not to report incidents of harassment or hate crimes. And here's why that often happens. Take a listen.
Mistrust in institutions, whether that's the police or, I even saw some people said that they don't trust medical institutions. There's also an education piece. Sometimes it's hard to know where the line is as far as what's just people behaving badly and what is a crime.
The Oregon Department of Justice says hate crimes overall more than tripled in 2020. 20% of those were reported by Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. In fact, my KOIN 6 Morning colleague, meteorologist Kelly Bayer, recently opened up about her brother and mother both experiencing discrimination right in front of her. You're going to hear about that in just a bit. You see, we're both Asian American women who also work opposite schedules. Finally, though, recently we got to sit down for a lunch, a chance to bond over a meal while also learning more about how cuisine can bridge us to different cultures.
We're gonna do the pork xiaolongbao soup dumpling because we have to have dumplings.
We have to have dumplings.
So I know you were born in Seattle, right? Or Seattle area?
I was born in Seattle, and my mom actually emigrated from Taiwan in her 20s and met my dad. I think what's interesting about my background is that people can't really tell that I look or that I am Chinese. I think a lot of folks look at me and say, maybe there's something there, but it's never Chinese as the first guess. Teachers even have said that I lied throughout school. So that was just kind of strange because there's nothing to lie about, you know? Like I have a Chinese mom, I'm half Chinese, I'm very proud of it. And that was something that was strange to me growing up. I'm a very white-passing Asian person, so I also never had too many struggles with racism in that sense. And I know that's a huge issue still in this day and age, and stuff that my mom has faced too, going out to stores and being harassed by people. So I got that end of the stick and didn't deal with that, but folks like my brother and some of my half-Asian friends who did turn out to look more Asian than I did dealt with those issues. You know, trying to fit into the Asian culture, it wasn't easy. You're looked at as an outsider, and then, you know, to go around and say that I'm Asian, people say that I'm lying. So it definitely put me in a spot where I didn't really know how to act. And now that I'm older, I just wish that at the time I just had the courage to be like, this doesn't matter. Like, I am me, I am half Asian, and I am proud of this. So I guess like now I just really try to share as much as I can about the Asian culture in a way that's easiest for me, and that's just through cooking and eating.
That connects us, you know, and you said it's like whether you go out to eat here, you're with your friends, or you're at home in your kitchen. I think that's like, it goes over boundaries of language. Food connects us.
I make steam baos, and I think that is what connects me mostly to my mom, just using the steamer, having to pleat the dough, and I make them quite often too.
How did you learn?
I learned through watching my mom, and then also a lot of stuff online. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
谢谢. You have to say 谢谢 is how you say thank you.
谢谢.
The vinegar is so good.
Yeah.
Like it's like such a nice balance to the meatiness of one full dumpling. That's one of my favorite dishes. I had it the first time when I was in Taiwan, and something about the texture of the vegetables, it's amazing. To see all of the buildings, see Tiananmen Square, like see the Great Wall, and just do all of these things and really immerse myself in the culture and really the food was one of the best trips I've ever taken. So I have been to Taiwan and China. I have relatives in Beijing and also in Taipei. So it was really cool to go there. I was a senior in college, so when I was older and enough to kind of understand the culture and have, you know, more in-depth conversations with my relatives who are all English speaking.
Comfort food is what brings you back to a great place and a dish that reminds you of that.
Yeah, it just brings back such a good feeling and so much happiness for me, and just a good connection back to my mom. My boyfriend is half Korean, so I've been able to learn about his culture. He also has a white father and a Korean mother, so I've learned a lot of cooking technique from her, and it's just, you know, because I'm interested in this, it's brought our relationship closer. I think food is so great because it really opens the door and allows you to see other people's perspectives on things, on life, on their opinions, and food is just the gateway to that.
After the break, Kelly goes into the kitchen at Duck House there to see how a dim sum artist creates those mouth-watering dumplings. And still to come, a local DJ embracing her ancestry through music and dance. She's so fun, and she shows me the moves too. Keep it here. Minutes ago, meteorologist Kelly Bayern showed her Chinese culture with me over a meal. And you also heard how she cooks those delicious dishes like dumplings. Well, the people at Duck House invited her into their kitchen, and she got to see how her dumpling making skills compare.
How many trays do you think you guys make per day?
Okay, depending on the day, anywhere from 150 to like 180.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. What are these specifically called?
小笼包. These are 小笼包.
Are these the soup ones?
Yes.
Oh.
These are specifically the pork. The shrimp ones, the shrimp and pork ones, they'll sprinkle some green onions on them just to differentiate them for anyone who's got allergies. When she was younger, she did dumplings. Soup dumplings was when she was older.
We ask her how mine look.
Very good.
Very good. Let's see, could we sell these? I don't know. I do like the steam buns. What's the name of steam buns versus these baos?
So it's still bao. So bao just literally means to wrap, and then xiaolong bao just means little basket bao. Zheng bao would be steamed buns.
When did you come to the U.S.?
2008.
2008. Where in China? Where are you from?
Beijing.
Oh, Beijing, cool.
Yes.
My family has like an apartment in Beijing, and I've got an uncle in Beijing. These are tough. These are the soup dumplings. I've never made those before. Very cool. Hers are so perfect.
She says she really loves and enjoys this job.
Well, you should be very proud of serving these because they're beautiful, and people love to try new cuisines, and this is just such a special way for people to really see into the culture, and just have someone so traditional creating these dishes is just so special.
Gao out, gao out.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you today. Together enjoy.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Work.
Yeah. 谢谢，谢谢。
Our big thanks to Duck House Restaurant, especially to Dan Dan, that dim sum artist, as well as Anna Chen, a server who doubled up as an interpreter. And of course, big thanks to Kelly Bayern, my colleague. I'm so grateful she is sharing more about her and her Chinese culture. Okay, for 2 decades, a Portland DJ has been bringing people together with her music and her cool moves. I got to take some dance lessons from DJ Anjali while learning more about her Indian culture. And as you're about to see, it's really fun.
And then we can do 2 fingers here, and you're gonna grab, and do here, and then swing over.
Just like that, I'm learning some South Asian dance moves from Anjali Hirsch,
Okay, and then the foot you can just do step.
also known as DJ Anjali.
But my full name is actually Gitanjali. My mom's from India, she named me after a book of poems, which Gitanjali means song offering. So it was kind of like I was born to be a DJ, you know?
And she's been owning that birthright, hyping up Portland crowds since 2000, along with her partner, the Incredible Kid.
Bhangra, which is the style I'm kind of more known for, is Punjabi folk dance. That style is almost like that music found me. Like, my family's from a different part of India, so I didn't grow up with Bhangra. But when I became a DJ, I got a couple Bhangra CDs and like compilations, and it was just like it's such fun party music.
Party music and dance scenes you might see in Bollywood movies.
Like arms up, everybody's like jumping up and down, yeah. And Bollywood definitely kind of absorbs a lot of Bhangra.
Before becoming a DJ, though, there was a time when Anjali didn't embrace that side of her ancestry.
I mean, of course I went through my teenage era where I was like, I reject all of my Indian heritage, you know, and then it came back to me after college, like organically, like on my own terms, I guess.
Her advice for others who might be going through something similar.
I think as a kid, like an Asian immigrant kid, you can just be so annoyed when you're young by all of the traditions. I think that's really typical to go through your rejection phase. But then what the beauty of it is that later in life, you can embrace it kind of on your own terms.
Through her journey to embracing her Indian roots, she's able to spread joy while sharing a fun part of her culture.
And then you can do thumbs.
All right, I know you want some lessons too. DJ Anjali has lots of upcoming events and dance lessons, including a 2-day spring festival, which is a celebration of color known as Holi. Just go to KOIN.com for more information. And I really appreciate you for tuning in. It is a privilege to be able to share these stories with you, especially as a proud Asian American woman. This half hour represents only a small snapshot, though, of the vibrant cultures, communities, places, and people here in our area. I do hope that you learned a lot. May it also motivate you to be more open to learning about your own roots, while also taking the time to learn about others, too. In my second language, Vietnamese, I say, Cảm ơn các bạn. Thank you, my friends.